Okay, let me show you my bread baby. Look it. Wow. I'm so happy with myself. Hey crew, let's make bread. So today we are going to be making a 1 hour braided honey whole wheat bread loaf. An hour time, very minimal kneading, so it's a great beginner recipe and it's really quick and it's really delicious. So to start, I'm going to get 1 cup and 2 tablespoons of warm water. Now we want warm water and not hot water because the warm water will help activate the yeast, but hot water can potentially kill the yeast and your bread won't rise appropriately. So as long as it's warm to your finger, you're probably safe. So no boiling water, please. Alright, so I have my warm water, and then I'm going to take 2 tablespoons of yeast. Active dry yeast. Or instant is good too. And we're going to stir that in real quick. And then to that, we're going to add a 1/3 cup of oil. You can use canola or vegetable or any other, really you can use whatever oil you like to use. I'm going to use light olive oil. The recipe suggests a light oil, whatever you end up using. And then a 1/4 cup of honey. And I know I'm using my 1/3 cup that I just used for the oil, but the oiled measuring cup will help my honey all come out nice and clean. So I won't put a 1/3 cup of honey in there. We might be here a little while. Cue the Jeopardy music. Ain't nobody got time for that. Okay, our approximately 1/4 cup of honey. Oh yeah, came out pretty clean. Scrape all that goodness out of there and give it a stir. And my yeast is already starting to activate. It's gonna get foamy on top. So foam on top is a good sign. And then I just really want to get my honey all mixed in. Alright, so now we're going to let that set for about 5 minutes or until the yeast is all frothy on top. So it's been about 5 minutes and my yeast is definitely frothy. Can you see that? Very, very frothy. So, excellent. Move on to the next step, which is adding 1 egg, baking soda, salt, and flour. So, egg. A teaspoon of salt. A 1/16 of a teaspoon of baking soda. So your measuring spoons may or may not go down to that size. I have an 1/8 teaspoon, so I'm just going to eyeball. I'm just going to eyeball half of an 1/8 of a teaspoon, which is a 1/16 of a teaspoon. Thereabouts. Might be hard for you to see my spoon. It's okay if it's not perfect. I'm going to give those a little bit of a mix first. I want to break my egg yolk. If I can find it under all of that froth. Jeez Louise. And get that all mixed in. And then we'll go on to add our flour. Alright, so this recipe calls for white whole wheat flour. And I just have traditional whole wheat flour and all-purpose. So the recipe says right now to add 3 cups of white whole wheat flour. So I'm going to add 2 cups of whole wheat flour and then 1 cup of all-purpose flour. And the reason for that is white whole wheat is lighter than traditional whole wheat flour, and so to counteract the heaviness of traditional whole wheat flour, that's why I'm going to use the 1 cup of all-purpose flour, because all-purpose flour is lighter. And I am spooning my flour into my measuring cup so that I don't put too much flour into this recipe and make it a dry bread. No one wants a dry bread. Okay, there's our 2 cups of whole wheat flour. Set that aside. And we'll add in our 1 cup of all-purpose flour. Again, spooning it into our measuring cup. All right, again, we'll set this aside because we may need to add more flour, but start with less and you can always add more. Make sure you're scraping down your sides and the bottom. Get all that flour mixed in. Now, my dough is pretty sticky. Like if I were to stick my hands in there and try to ball it up, it would just stick all over my hands. So I'm going to go ahead and add a 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour. And it's possible that your dough won't be this sticky. And it's possible that this 1/2 cup we're adding will not solve our stickiness problem. So start with a 1/2 cup. Let's mix it in and see where we're at. And if your dough wasn't super sticky, but it was still kind of sticky, you can start with less flour. Add a spoonful or 2, and I'm going to transition to working with my hands. This is the fun part. And as you can see, the dough might still stick to your hands, but just keep working at it. And you don't want to add too much flour. Like I said, we don't want it to dry out, but you still want it to be manageable enough to a point where you can work with it with your hands. And mine's getting there, but as you can see, it's still pretty sticky. So let's add a little more flour. Whenever I've made this recipe, I've always had to add a lot more flour than they originally called for. So keep adding flour until you can work with it. Alright, so we have a nice ball of dough, it's sticking to itself and not me. I mean, it's a little bit, it's gonna be slightly moist, but you can handle it and you're not coming away with all that dough on your hands. So what we're gonna do right now, we're gonna put a splash of oil right in our bowl, or on a fresh bowl, whatever you prefer. And I'm just gonna turn my dough ball in the oil. And we really just don't want the dough ball to stick to our bowl, so that when we take it out, it comes out nice and easy. And our dough, we're gonna let this set for 10 minutes, and it's gonna rise a little bit, so make sure the sides of your bowl are oiled also. And to give optimal rising conditions, I'm going to put a towel over the top of my bowl. And we're just gonna let this sit for 10 minutes. And while this is doing its thing under there, we are going to preheat the oven to 425 degrees. All right, so it's been 10 minutes. My oven is preheated. I have a pan over here to put our bread on once it's ready. So I just have a big cookie sheet topped with parchment on top of it. You can put foil on top of your pan or grease it. I just find parchment or foil to be the easiest to clean up. So let's take a peek and see our bread dough. All right, it's risen a little bit. We're going to take that and flour a clean surface with flour. And I'm going to plop our bread dough out onto it. See how easy that was? It's a good thing we oiled our bowl. Now, the recipe says to cut your bread dough into 4 sections and then do a 4-part braid. I've always struggled doing that, so it's okay if you just do a traditional 3-strand braid, or I'm sure if you just do 2 twists, that's fine. But I'm going to try what looks like a 4-stranded braid, but I'm going to make 2 long bread ropes and give it a try. So wish me luck. Maybe I should have practiced this before the video, but you know what? We're just going to go with it. Okay, well, let's give it a go. Try to keep it tight. We have uneven strands. That's okay. We can just this part is really pretty. It's hard to see, but I'm doing some surgery down here on our bread dough, so we have more even length strands. Well, I'm pleasantly surprised at how well that went. I guess if you have any tricks on how to finish braided bread, do share down in the comments. Here, let me show you my bread baby. Look it. Wow. I'm so happy with myself. Sorry. Here, let me clean off the counter a little bit. There we go. All right, if you want to know how I braided this, I will leave the link to the YouTube video I watched. It's honestly just someone braiding paracord. So, you know, whatever works, whatever does the trick. So since this is a honey wheat bread, naturally, I'm gonna drizzle some honey on top of it. This should come out hopefully a little bit better than what was coming out of my glass jar when we were making the dough. There we go. If you don't want to do this, you don't have to do this part. And then I'm going to take some oatmeal. And we're just going to sprinkle some oats on top. And I'm gonna, if you want to brush your honey around, that might be good. I don't have a brush, so we are just going to work with what we have. Alright, so we're going to pop this in the oven for 10 to 12 minutes or until golden brown on top. So after 10 minutes, there's a little bit of golden brown on this end of my bread. So what I'm going to do is just turn it 90 degrees in my oven and put it in for a couple more minutes. So it's been a total of 12 minutes. It's a little bit golden, but I'm going to put it in for still a couple more minutes, and then I think we'll be ready to tent it with our foil. All right. I am happy with that. And if you have used white whole wheat flour, the browning of it will be more obvious. So since I used mostly traditional whole wheat flour, my dough is already a little bit darker to begin with. But I don't want to let our bread cool down too much. I have a nice long piece of foil. I'm going to take it long way and kind of bend it right in the middle. And then just drape it over our bread. Just like that. Nothing more, nothing less. And all that does is it helps protect the top of our bread from burning while allowing our bread to continue to cook on the inside. So we're gonna put it back in the oven for 7 to 10 minutes. So I'll check it in 7. Let's take a peek. Okay, so what we want is that it's firm to the touch on the outside, especially where your braid comes together, but also if you put honey on top, it might be a little sticky in those areas. So I'm going to take my handy dandy toothpick, and if you have a cake tester, that's perfect too, but I'm going to find one of the thickest parts of our bread and stab it. And see if it comes out clean. Now, this first stab came out clean, but I'm going to test a couple other spots. Even though my toothpick is coming out clean, I'm like not trusting it. Well, I've poked it in multiple spots and it's coming out clean. My toothpick is. So I'm going to trust it, and obviously I'm going to keep poking a little bit. Am I being paranoid? All right, I'm gonna trust it. I don't want dry bread, and my toothpick isn't coming out gummy at all. So now the hardest part, letting it cool. So you can put it on top of a wire rack, ideally, so that the air circulates underneath it. I don't have a wire rack, so I might just transfer my parchment paper on top of my stove because I have grates on my stove. And don't worry about fire hazards. I'll be sure not to turn my stove on. I'm gonna let it cool, and then I'll meet you guys back here and we will do a taste test. If you can't wait, I won't hold it against you. So I have successfully waited about 40 minutes for this beauty to cool off. Now, there is no shame if you cannot wait that long. So first of all, can we just talk about how much this has expanded from the skinny little braid that we created to this majesty here? Whoa. And there's not much that smells better than homemade bread in your home. Let me just tell you, this smelled wonderful. So, all right, stop talking. Let's try it out. Which side should I start on? This one? Let's do it. So if you're civilized, you can cut slices if you want, but we're just gonna tear right into it. A bit of crust. I want some of the inside too. Ooh. Look at that. It's still a little bit warm. So you can eat it with butter or however you want, but I'm just gonna try it plain first. Oh, and let's try a little bit of the crunchy crust. It's not actually very crunchy. It doesn't have a crisp shell around it, so it's actually soft and chewy and wonderful. If you have a big family at home, this bad boy might be gone within an hour, but it's perfect. You can put stuff on it. It's great by itself. You can dip it in some of that homemade hummus that I know you guys made from the video I have for homemade hummus. I'll be sure to link that down below so you guys can check it out. I don't know what more to tell you guys. It's beautiful. I know if you make this the first time and your braiding skills aren't that great, it may not look like this, but keep trying, keep working at it, and it's still gonna taste wonderful, even if it looks kind of messy. That's how we learn. This is one of my favorite breads to make. It's quick, it's easy, it's delicious. And that's what I hope for out of all of my recipes, that they're quick, easy, and delicious. And fun. So I'm gonna leave you guys here. Go give this bad boy a try. Let me know how it goes. Leave some comments down below. How did it turn out for you? If you liked this video, please give it a big thumbs up. And if you want to see more videos from me, go check out my channel. Hit that subscribe button and that bell. And I will see you guys next time. Cheers.